Oh, dude, be honest. Be honest. How brutal is it to make you join on Discord? Like, do I need to drop that ASAP? Is it brutal?
No, it's all good.
It's all good.
I don't log in Discord every day anymore, but I'm here. I had a bunch of messages I had to get back to, so it was good you made me log in.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, hell yeah. They kind of stack. I appreciate you joining. First of all, congratulations on all the announcements.
Thank you. Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah, of course. I think the best place to start, honestly, is I know there's a lot of people that are watching my stream right now that are trading on Solana, but are probably not trading equities on Solana, at least yet. And so, could you maybe start with like a high level on who you are, but then what the Robinhood and Arbitrum partnership is, how it works, what it entails.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just jump right into it.
Yeah, just rip it. Yeah.
All right. So, the Arbitrum and Robinhood partnership announced yesterday is like it's multifaceted, but I'll just break it down what I think are the most important parts, which are number one is like, as you mentioned, launching tokenized equities and ETFs. So security stocks and ETFs on the blockchain. They started with over 200, including some of the most popular US equities. And bringing these global using Arbitrum. So there's like two different ways to look at it. There's like kind of the view you just had, which is, hey, this is really cool for people on the blockchain. And actually, I think it's going to be super cool. Arbitrum has a leading DeFi ecosystem, and we haven't really seen. There have been like a few here and there, but at this scale, have not seen equities backed by this number of equities backed by this large of a financial player on the blockchain. And I think the integration of these new assets into the primitives that we've built is going to be like incredible and super super interesting. But the other side of it actually has a completely different view. It doesn't even look at the blockchain at all, right? Because what Robinhood did yesterday was they created an experience in the Robinhood app. So the same Robinhood app we all, I'm in the US. I don't know where everyone else is, but if you're in the US, you've probably seen it and you're familiar with it. And now 32 countries have this same app and the same experience. And if you go and look at the European app, they actually showed side by side the two. It looks and feels exactly the same. And you wouldn't even know unless someone told you, which, we're telling you, you wouldn't even know that it's actually not the same tech stack as in the US. It's not the traditional brokerages powering this. It's Arbitrum underneath powering this. It's tokenized equities powered by Arbitrum because the experience you're getting is exactly the same. And the reason why I think that's so cool is, like, let's be honest, I love crypto, you love crypto, but like for a lot of people, they're not going to be able, there's a large class of people that just aren't going to be able to engage with the low level details of any blockchain as we know it today, right? Like self custody, set up your wallet, store your seed phrase, deal with RPCs and block explorers. Like we like in our community, like we know how to do this, but if you want to actually grow to like the world, you have to actually have ways to access this technology that don't require you to go into the nitty gritty details. An example I like to give is imagine going to YouTube, right? You go to YouTube and you get this like pop up when you visit. It says, "Would you like to watch YouTube on AWS today, Amazon servers, or on GCP on Google servers?" And you'll just be like, "Dude, I just want to watch my video." And or like, "I don't even know what AWS and GCP are. Can you just show me my cat video?" Right? And that's like for many, like what the blockchain experience is today, where there's just these technical details that you actually might not care about or might not even understand being thrown in your face. And by the way, I think the ability to like self custody assets and to go on chain and to own them and to have self sovereignty is super important. The optionality is what's important. It means if I want to do that, I should be able to do that. But the core question has always been, but what if I don't want to do that? Does blockchain technology actually provide me any benefit? What Robinhood has shown is yes, we can power the entire, EU with we can power, they went from one country in the app to 32 countries now that can have the same trading experience of US stock and equities. It's starting with 200 stocks and ETFs, US equities. And they get the same experience, and it's all powered by crypto underneath. And you don't have to be crypto native. You don't have to know what a wallet or a seed phrase is, but you're still leveraging the power of crypto because it's what's making this entire trading experience possible. And that to me is like mind boggling. And like, that's the 0 to 1 moment where we're not just creating something alternative, we're actually rebuilding the existing financial system on crypto rails in a way that's accessible by everyone.
So there's 32 countries that now have access to U.S. stocks, basically that didn't before, and Arbitrum is powering it.
And I think it went to 32, so maybe 31. But yes, the idea is that they've expanded massively, and for all but the U.S. experience, for all these new countries that they expanded to yesterday, underneath the hood, it's not the old tech stack anymore. They've rebuilt the same experience on Arbitrum.
Okay, so then my next question is, why did Robinhood choose to partner with Arbitrum over any other chain?
Great question. I think there's a few key things. Number one is the tech stack that actually supports it. So you need a highly mature, battle tested, stable, secure, and customizable tech stack to be able to support this, right? This is at Robinhood scale, at the scale, we're talking about adding potentially hundreds of millions of users to the blockchain. You need to be able to do this at scale. I think Robinhood understood that Arbitrum and zooming out, the Ethereum layer 2 design is actually going to be key to actually being able to do that at scale at the right price point for users as well. That's number one. But also, I think that the Arbitrum community, when it comes to finance and financial primitives, DeFi, is just a really strong place to do this, and it resonates with the core values of the community, and really where Arbitrum really shines, and it's just naturally. I think it's a very natural fit. And this, by the way, this isn't the first time that Arbitrum and Robinhood have done a partnership. That's probably another angle to this as well. So 2 years ago at ETH Denver, um, uh, we announced a partnership between the Arbitrum ecosystem and Robinhood, where back then it was the Robinhood crypto app, where Arbitrum DeFi was accessible there. This is obviously a much deeper partnership in the Robinhood main app. The idea is this was a relationship that's been built over the course of many years, and a lot of mutual trust, and just delivering on expectations has been again just built up over many years.
Is this like the ultimate validation moment since Arbitrum's inception?
It's definitely a big one. I think the reason why to me is probably the ultimate validation moment is so I'm going to age myself here, but I first encountered smart contracts in 2013. And the idea at that point, um, the like aha moment for me wasn't that, and I wasn't imagining at that point anything like NFTs or meme coins or all these like kind of crypto specific things that would come up and emerge and prove to be very interesting over the years. But at that point, what I was imagining was, oh, this is really cool technology. What of the things that I know today can we rebuild with this technology? Right? I thought of it more of as a tool stack and a set of like new ways to build interpersonal relationships and all of these financial relationships in particular, and how to like we can rebuild the system that we have today. And I think over the course of the past decade or so, for many, we kind of took a detour and almost like gave up on that happening, right? For many, they kind of thought like crypto is its own alternative system. Even if you're talking about, financial aspects of it, it's DeFi and it's TradFi. I've never ever met someone, by the way, and said, "Hey, what do you do?" And they said, "Oh, I work in centralized finance." Like, never happened, right? They say I work in finance.
Yeah.
We say I work in DeFi, and it's almost like by adding these adjectives, I felt like the people kind of sold ourselves short. We're not the real thing. But like what we're proving today is no, we are the real thing, right? This is the merge of TradFi and DeFi, as we call it, and it's not like two different things. It's just it's finance, and
Fi.
crypto is going to play a massive role in the future of finance. So if you think back to my early like what anyone could have imagined at that point, because no one imagined all these other super cool things that would pop up. But we imagined was, how could we rebuild the system? And I think for many that vision got lost or muddied, and we kind of assumed they'd be separate, and crypto has its own interesting things, but it's not really ever going to touch the existing system. And this is a proof that no, like you don't need to be crypto native even. Crypto can be extremely useful to rebuilding the system and literally expanding access, which to me, by the way, is one of the most important reasons that we're here. We're expanding access to products that people otherwise wouldn't be able to access via crypto, but with the regular UX that shows up on your smartphone in the same app that you know and love.
I like that. I work in centralized finance. It's funny.
That
If
doesn't happen, right? I
yeah,
don't know. You ever heard that? We always just add these
no,
adjectives to ourselves,
yeah,
and it's kind of a little bit like, where I feel like we're a little self-conscious, but I have to. I don't really work in
yeah.
real finance. You work in no, you work in real finance. This is real finance. You're early on. Give it 5 years, and this is going to be the center of finance.
So if I live in a European country and I now have access to buy a stock on Robinhood with this partnership, am I considered like a user of Arbitrum?
You are that's like the beautiful thing, which is you are absolutely using Arbitrum. Vlad, in one of his demos yesterday, this was for the other interesting thing that they launched was private stock. So they open AI and SpaceX, which is also really interesting. But showed an live transaction yesterday, and yeah, literally like these things you can go and you can look at it on the block explorer, and these are transactions on Arbitrum that happen. So yes, you're absolutely a user of Arbitrum. But the nice thing is that like you can opt to know about that or care about that or not. By the way, the same thing is in gaming. I'll give you an example. Like in
Okay.
2017, I felt like all the crypto games were like crypto first and then gaming seconds. And the people who were playing them weren't the gamers. It was the people that wanted to, oh, that's so cool. I can like play a game on crypto now. That is like incredible. Like this is cool. They didn't give a crap that it was like a boring game or like it wasn't fun and it was slow and expensive because like they were just like crypto game. And then we realized that in 2022 or 3, we started to realize that no, we have to actually appeal to mainstream gamers. So we have to start building good games. And the question is, can crypto provide value towards mainstream gaming? And the answer is yes, of course. But not every user will want that. So for some users, they're going to love the fact that they can take self-sovereignty over their in-game items, right? So they own their assets, they control them, they can transfer them to a different universe that might support them. They can know that overnight, some game developer can't shut down and their items that they worked hard for, their status has disappeared. But there's going to be actually more users that don't want to do that. They just actually, or don't want to do that right now. And they don't feel threatened to do, they're very happy with where it is working right now. But so crypto needs to be additive. It shouldn't actually hurt anyone's experience. It should be additive. So yes, all of these, anyone who touches this in the EU is an Arbitrum user. Some may decide to go more deeply. Maybe they'll take self-custody of their assets. Maybe they're going to directly use them in DeFi, via their own wallet. Some may choose to use the Robinhood app and front end as their final destination to access it. Yes, and both of those are completely fine use cases and completely supported use cases.
I like the gaming analogy. Is a pretty good one. Um, so then I'm curious, like, how impactful is like are these on-chain equities going to be towards Arbitrum's success, like over the next 5-10 years? Like, is this now like a primary focus, like really pushing this layer of finance?
So one of the core verticals of Arbitrum has always been finance, and historically we would say, well, it's DeFi, it's RWA and tokenization. But again, my real view is this is just finance,
Mm-hmm.
and you're kind of seeing to this point of merging. You're seeing this go both directions, right? You see people taking like crypto assets like Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc., and packaging those up for institutional investors via ETFs. You see funds like BlackRock and Franklin Templeton taking traditional assets like money market funds, traditional securities, and package them up for blockchain developers at Arbitrum as well. And we're just seeing like a two-way street where people are finally realizing that no, this is like one system, and this like works really well together. So for us, this has always been a core focus. Stablecoin is another big part of that, which can sometimes people view as a different vertical, but to me, this is actually all the same thing. All these pieces are going to rebuild the financial landscape with something else. So yes, this is going to be a big focus for us. And the thing about us is, yesterday was fantastic. Announcement day is great, but that's actually, from my perspective, the least important day of all of this, right? That's day zero. Now we have to say, okay, how do we make sure that this continues to work? It continues to support the demand that comes. We continue to add features and make sure that the Robinhood team and whoever else comes and builds alongside them has all the tools that they need to be absolutely successful. That's the real metric of success. So yes, you can be sure that for the entire ecosystem will be working hard, not just patting ourselves on the back for a good announcement yesterday, but working hard so that in a year from now or 2 years from now, we're going to look back and say, wow, that was a great moment, and look what it's become. This is a smashing success and a proof of what you can do on the blockchain.
So if it wasn't obvious, I'm not like particularly technical here, but I saw a couple tweets about this.
I'm being too technical, by the way.
No, no,
Stop
no,
me.
no, no. It's perfect. I was like as a setup for this question. It's perfect. But maybe this is a little niche, but I saw a couple tweets about it. I thought it was interesting. Like I was here during the GameStop run, right, where there was a huge controversy where Robinhood halted. You couldn't buy GameStop anymore for a significant period of time, and there was massive controversy around it. And how does that work with these on-chain equities? Like, can Robinhood on the back end or front end or whatever basically pause trading of these stocks? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so the answer is, like, the technical details, of course, will be subject to their team, but I know and subject, I don't want to speak for their team or what their ultimate plans are, particularly around the chain, which hasn't been launched yet, so I'll defer to them on that. But what I can tell you is, having gotten to know them for a long time, they're not like, as should be clear from yesterday's announcement, they're not into crypto as like, some fad or some like, adjacent thing that we can tack our onto, but they're really, really bought into crypto and view it, as Vlad said yesterday, as rebuilding. How do we rebuild the financial infrastructure of today using crypto? And that's where they're really going in on. So going all in on. And one of course core value of crypto is the ability to permissionlessly access different primitives. So I don't want to speak for their team, but I can tell you that they are definitely understand crypto well, and they're embracing crypto and the values of crypto. And I think they're going to continue to be a forward-thinking leader in this space for a very, very long time.
That's a proper answer. I can accept that. I can accept that. Okay, so here's another one I'm curious about is like, what happens to Robinhood Arbitrum integration when like Robinhood's chain is deployed and live and ready to go?
The Robinhood's chain is an Arbitrum chain.
Okay.
It's an Arbitrum Orbit chain. So let me maybe just talk about that.
Yeah, explain that. Yeah.
Arbitrum, the ecosystem, is comprised of, I guess you could say, two different things. It has Arbitrum 1, which is the marquee chain of the ecosystem. So it's the most liquid chain of the ecosystem. It's a chain where most of the DeFi happens, and it's what people call Arbitrum. But actually, the ecosystem is a lot broader than that. And there's something called Arbitrum Orbit, which gives you the ability to launch on the Arbitrum platform your own chain. And there are lots. There are actually over 100 chains today that are built or in different stages of development using Arbitrum Orbit. And I'll give you some examples of chains you actually may have heard of, but not even realized that there are Arbitrum chains, or maybe you did. Ape Chain, is a good one. So Bored Ape Yacht Club's chain, that's Arbitrum. Converge, this was a chain that was just recently announced between Securitize and Athena. That's also an Arbitrum chain. Plume is one you may have heard of. There's a lot. There's literally over 100. So and a bunch of gaming chains too. Zai, of course, Proof of Play, Pirate Nation. These are all like Arbitrum chains. And so they are going to launch another chain in the Arbitrum ecosystem, and ultimately will be a first-class citizen in the Arbitrum ecosystem. And so whether the equities long-term will be, I'll tell you two things. Whether a particular equity is issued by Robinhood on Arbitrum 1 or on their own Arbitrum Robinhood chain, from the ecosystem's perspective, will still be in the Arbitrum ecosystem, and I still think you'll see these assets integrated throughout the entire ecosystem.
So if they're issued on their own Arbitrum chain, do you still see that like value accrual coming back to Arbitrum 1 in like the ecosystem token?
So yeah, this is, I'm glad you asked, because I feel like this is a point that people don't fully understand, and that's our bad. But it's a good opportunity to make this clear. Fundamentally, both accrue value to the Arbitrum DAO. So let me step back for a second. One of the unique things about Arbitrum is it has an on-chain treasury. So fees in Arbitrum 1 are collected in ETH. Where do those ETH go? They don't go to me. They don't go to off-chain labs. They don't go to an Arbitrum Foundation private wallet. They actually go on-chain to a treasury that's controlled by the token holders. The only way to get money out of that treasury is the token holder. So you'll see, Arbitrum has accumulated, 25 to 30,000 ETH. Those sit in the Arbitrum treasury, and they sit there. It has billions of Arbitrum tokens. Those sit in the Arbitrum treasury. And again, the only way to get those values is to get that value out, to spend those, or to invest those, or to grant those, actually are, there's no, like, I don't have keys. Arbitrum Foundation doesn't have keys to that. We have our budget, they have their budget, but the vast majority of all this value, all the fees that come in, actually sit right there in the Arbitrum DAO. This is also true, by the way, for something called Time Boost. This is the product we launched recently on Arbitrum One, which allows you to bid for ordering and pay for some advantage. It's been, I think it's roughly at only launched a couple of weeks ago, but it looks like it's going to net 15 million plus revenue per year. Could grow a lot from there, but like at current numbers, that all goes right into the Arbitrum DAO as well. And so to get to your question, so what about chains? How do those contribute to the Arbitrum DAO? And the answer is there are two types of chains. Now it's gonna get slightly technical. There are chains that settle onto Arbitrum One. We call these layer 3s on Arbitrum. And then there are chains that settle like layer 2s on Ethereum, like Arbitrum itself, or layer 3s actually on other networks. We support all of these, and there's two different models. If you're a layer 3 on Arbitrum One, you don't have to pay anything because you're already paying things. You're settling on Arbitrum One, you're sending transactions there, so your chain is already contributing to the Arbitrum ecosystem. But let's say you want to use the Arbitrum stack, the Arbitrum Orbit stack, to launch on layer 2 on Ethereum. Well, you're not naturally paying Arbitrum anything, right? Because and by the way, in Robinhood's case, they're launching a layer 2 on Ethereum. Let's say actually you want to launch a layer 3 using the Arbitrum technology on Base. That might sound funny to you, but actually it's extremely popular. I don't know if you've heard of Blackbird, like the restaurant reservation app. That is an Arbitrum chain sitting on Base. Degen chain, one of Base's more popular chains from last year. Arbitrum chain sitting on Base, and they're paying. So what is the business model for all these chains? They're actually paying 10% of their on-chain revenue to the Arbitrum DAO. So that's right. You have these Base successful chains that are paying money to the Arbitrum DAO because they're using the technology stack, and similarly for Ethereum layer 2. So the Arbitrum DAO actually, again, not like some foundation wallet that's hidden and supposed to be affiliated with the DAO, but literally the on-chain treasury is actually collecting these funds, and those funds just, you can look at them all on-chain and track them, but they sit right there in the Arbitrum DAO. 80% of those go directly to the on-chain treasury. 20 of them go to something called the Developer Guild, which is specifically to fund development teams that are going to be building the protocol. But all this happens on-chain. So the answer is the Arbitrum ecosystem has full alignment from all the products it offers, which I think is really important because naturally, the ecosystem, you want the ecosystem to continue to be able to sustain and fund and grow new projects as well.
Okay, so basically, if I understood it, which I think I did, no matter what Robinhood does, just like any other chain, if they use the Arbitrum tech stack, no matter how they implement it, money is coming back into the Arbitrum DAO.
Exactly, that's true for basically every Arbitrum chain. There's always aligned economics, and that's just, I think, the best thing we can do is alignment, right? And I think that's just the best way to build an ecosystem, and ultimately keeps everyone aligned. So yes, I don't think this is a very well understood point, to be honest, but yes, absolutely.
And since, okay, that I get now. Okay, makes completely sense. So it doesn't really matter if they do it on Arbitrum One or if they spin off and do their own thing using Arbitrum. It's like the success of Robinhood chain goes directly into Arbitrum's treasury, like directly.
We are aligned with the success of Arbitrum is aligned with the success of Robinhood's chain or product on Arbitrum One, whatever and that's actually one of the nicest things. So to take a slight detour, Arbitrum is really the only ecosystem that can claim to have a top 5 blockchain, right? Top layer 2, but just if you look at Arbitrum One as a blockchain, top 5 blockchain by economic activity, and also a top 5 blockchain stack. Probably a top 1 blockchain stack, but just to be poetic, a top 5 blockchain and a top 5 blockchain stack. And it's actually very helpful because when I go into like a BD meeting with someone, and they say, should I launch my chain, or should I launch as an app on a public chain? Right? If you look at our competitors, there are those that will tell you you must launch your own chain. Everyone needs their own chain. And I think, by the way, that's ridiculous. Not everyone needs their own chain. And there are those that will tell you nobody needs their own chain. Everyone should launch on a public chain. And because Arbitrum has these two products, this barbell strategy, I can actually say, like, let me hear what you're building and hear about your customers and your plan, and I'll tell you if I think you need your own chain or not, because actually we don't have any incentive to push people one way or the other. Whether you build your own Arbitrum chain or you build an Arbitrum one, the Arbitrum ecosystem has alignment with you. And all that I like to do is say, hey, I'd love for you to build an Arbitrum. You decide if you need your own chain. And by the way, the ability to graduate to your own chain is one of the nicest things, because even if you want your own chain eventually, maybe you don't want your own chain today. Robinhood's a great example. They're going to have their own chain eventually, but they got started without their own chain. Another example we mentioned before, Proof of Play Pirate Nation, the game, they started off on the Arbitrum public network, and they actually graduated. Today, they actually have two of their own chains in the Arbitrum ecosystem that are working together, and two of the most performant, highest capacity layer 2s or layer 3s that exist at all of any stack. And the idea is the ability to grow with you and change with your business. So, like, whatever you want is fine. Just keep using Arbitrum, and we'll have the tools for you. It's actually very, very unique and allows us to align with developers, because we really don't have any incentive to sell someone anything that they don't need. We have the product to support them both ways.
Awesome. Okay, I hate to make you re-ask this, but a couple people in the chat are asking, and I feel bad. So I'm gonna frame it like this: like, if you could re-answer the how does Arbitrum accrue value from Robinhood partnership, like as simply as possible, or like as quick as possible, how would you frame it?
The Arbitrum DAO collects all transaction fees on Arbitrum 1 and collects 10% of revenue from anyone using the Arbitrum Orbit stack.
That was pristine. Nice. Awesome, dude. I want to keep you with the 30 minutes, so I'll let you go here in a second. I kind of want to just like ask this final question. And thanks for coming the day post massive partnership. I know it's crazy. What would you say is like the most underrated or slept on aspect of everything that you guys have announced in the last 24, 48 hours that you don't think the Twitter timeline has like given enough love to?
I think, honestly, it's basically what I said, which is I think we've gotten this fatigue a little bit. Like, institution announced blockchain. Every institution's like announcing a blockchain, like their own chain. It's kind of like, okay, boring, but almost every other institution, with some exceptions, but almost every other institution that's built their own chain. There are, again, some exceptions, but they take the same technology and they just slap their brand in it. They say, all right, everyone, come use this because it's ours and you want to use a chain. And I was like, why? Like, I'm trading here. Why should I go trade on your chain? And we see a lot of these ghost chains, actually. Someone slapped the brand in it, but like they never took off and no one's doing any activity there, because you're like, well, I get that you have another product that I like, but like, what is this? Why would I move there? This is like completely the opposite, where they're actually taking their existing product and expanding that and putting the core thing, the actual thing, on the blockchain, not some adjacent wonky thing, that's using a blockchain. So I think that's the part. I don't think there's some fatigue with these announcements, but I don't know if people have really appreciated just how deep it is. And the second one, just for fun, because I was like a little bit, I already mentioned that, but the second one, this is definitely not the most important thing, but one that I'm personally excited about is they announced a few co-branded credit cards. So getting the Arbitrum Robinhood co-branded credit card in my wallet will be pretty nice and fun.
Are those like live? Are those limited edition? Like, how do I get one of those?
I think they're live for Arbitrum Gold customers. They announced them yesterday, so I definitely don't have mine yet, but I will certainly report back on Twitter once I get my hands on one of those.
Yeah, give me the details on how to get one of those, dude. I'm in.
Will do.
Sick. Steven, it was a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Congratulations on everything, and hopefully we can bring you back on at some point.